Oh, there you go, Thumb. What's up, my friend? Thank you for the sub. Starting strong with a nice sub right there. Thank you, my friend. Thumb 97. Got Alan, we got Solid Mango, and we should be live on YouTube as well. So YouTube, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you guys can hear me. We got a couple of people here. We got Hassan, we got Marianne, we got Solar Axis. What's up, guys? Yeah, actually, I had the wrong thumbnail on YouTube. This is not the Nintendo live stream stuff. We're gonna be doing some design stuff instead. Gonna be fun. Let's see. Aaron, what's up, my friend? Hello, hello. Mango as well. What's up, dude? Sounds a bit low. Voice sounds low. Okay, let me check the gain a little bit. Is that a little bit better? No, it's still low, right? I'm not sure what it is. Do I need to bring my microphone closer? A bit low. Yeah, I've been playing with the filters and stuff. I'm not sure if that is messing things up. But a little bit of a gain. Hear me loud and clear? Okay, I'm gonna keep it like this. I just increased it a little bit better, a little bit more, just a tad bit. Hopefully that's a bit better. Rashgiana, what's up, my friend? Thank you, thank you. Sounds good over there then. Great. We're going to be starting very, very shortly. Just finishing a couple of things over here. Ah, we're missing David. Where is David? Sant Naval, what's up, my friend? Hassan, Skinwalker. Then we're ready. Then we're almost ready to start. Somebody said I haven't received the Discord notification. Usually David sets up something. Oh, you're right. He didn't send it this time. Don't worry, don't worry. He'll send it in just a second. Just had dinner? Nice. I just had a coffee. I usually don't get a lot of time to have breakfast on Fridays for the live stream. But we'll have some chilaquiles soon. We'll have some nice chilaquiles soon. I'm on the way in the car right now, going to a family dinner. Nice, nice. Enjoy. Enjoy the family dinner. Very well. So I know we're still 2 minutes away from starting, but might as well just go into it. We're going to be waiting for our friend David. He's going to be soon, or here very, very soon. In the meantime, did you guys see this week's video? Did you see the haircut stuff? I've been asking for that for a long time, and I finally created a nice little video there for you guys. Nice, nice. I'm glad. Hopefully you liked it. We're gonna have more information about hair in the next couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it. Okay, okay, interesting. Becker Draw, what's up, my friend? Ciao, ciao. So in YouTube, it seems like we're like 14 seconds behind from real time. That's interesting. Anthony, what's up, my friend? Long time no see. Yeah, I missed last week. I was out of town for a family, small family event that we had. Nothing bad. Like quite the opposite. Very nice event. But that's why I wasn't able to stream last week. Ignacio Acerenza. That's a very cool last name, man. Acerenza. Is it from like Spain? Ignacio feels very Spanish. I'm good, I'm good. Been playing a lot of Silksong lately. Very fun game, very difficult. Very stressful, but quite rewarding. Anthony says, I have a question, Profe. Are you going to do a substance painter or substance designer course? No, I don't think so. I don't think I will. I might do some videos about it because it's a powerful software and we should definitely cover it a little bit. But I'm not. I really don't know it. I know just the very minimum, like the very basic stuff on how to create like a simple like wood texture or like brick texture. There's people out there that do crazy things with it, so I'm not one of those. So I don't think we're gonna have a full course, but we're definitely gonna have some content where we can definitely have some content. Let's go by Fernando Freak, and Acerenza says from Italy. Italian, nice, nice. Acerenza. There we go, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our Friday live stream. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be streaming for you guys today, and we're gonna have some fun. This is a topic that we've been thinking about, or I've been thinking about, like showcasing or explaining for a while now. And it's gonna be about design principles. So let me give you a little bit of background on why I'm picking this topic, okay? And there we go. We got Sarn here on the house. What's up, my friend? Oh, David. Okay, so let me show you here. During the week, in our Discord channel, a user asked a question. And it was a really good question. Most questions that we get are really good, to be honest. Go Lotus, thank you, my friend, for the sub. Says, today's my birthday, and what a good way to start the day with one of your live streams. Go Lotus, happy birthday to you, my friend. Feliz cumpleaños. And I hope you have a great day. Let's enjoy it with some nice like art and 3D content today, and hopefully you're gonna have a bigger party a little bit later in the day. Okay, so there you go. So as I was mentioning, during this week, a user asked a very nice question here on the channel. This one right here. It's our good friend Bob Dylan. Well, I'm pretty sure that's not his name. His name is Colin. I'm not sure if Colin is here right now or if he will be joining us very soon. But yeah, Colin asked this very interesting question. He was like, I want to make my stuff, you know, look a little bit more refined, look a little bit more interesting, look a little bit more intense in terms of design. And this is what I have right now. So he did this weapon, which to me looks like it's a weapon made out of bread. I don't know, kind of like a pastry weapon. Interesting idea. And then we have this very basic default and bloody version of a sword, like maybe one of the swords that you start a game with. And then we have this plasma, royal, and cursed versions of the knife. We also have this like fire gun. So the interesting thing about this, like sketches and drawings that our good friend Colin here shared, is that there are some design principles missing. Not necessarily on the technical execution. There's also some technical things that we need to address and improve. But it's more about the again, like the thought process and the design behind all of these elements. So if we go to this ones right here, you're gonna see that he had some interesting ideas. We have this plasma weapon, which kind of makes me or reminds me of like an undead weapon. Maybe it's like a spiritual, ethereal weapon. We have this royal one, which is again like very interesting with the guard and the pommel and everything. And then we have the cursed one, right? Like very, very intense, very bloody or red, very sort of like evil in this case. Noah, thank you for the sub, my friend. Thank you. And welcome everyone. Who am I missing here? I'm missing Crix, Benjamin Moreno. I'm missing Karim, Kosaksu. What's up, guys? What's up? Thug Art. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm guessing that's a Russian hello or something like that, probably. So yeah, let's take a look. So this is what Colin was doing on his elements, and I thought, hey, this is something that we can definitely like expand upon, so that I can explain how we can make some of these designs a little bit better and how we can make some of these designs a little bit more modern as well. Like, what are the principle or what are the design principles that we normally look for when dealing with this kind of weapons? So we're gonna do a little survey right now. David is gonna help me with a survey on the what's the word, on Discord, not on Discord, on Twitch, with a poll, and I'm gonna do the one on YouTube right here. So the question is, which weapon should we pick to create a new design on? The first one is going to be the plasma, where I'm going to call it the phantom weapon. The second one's going to be the royal weapon. And the third one's going to be the cursed weapon. There we go. So on YouTube, the poll should already be there. Let me know if you guys can see it, and vote for which weapon do you want me to sort of like expand upon, like which one are we going to be using to create a new version of it while we talk about design principles and things that we normally look for. Juan Carlos Tredes, hi, hello from Spain. Hola, hasta España, hasta la madre patria. A nosotros, bueno, no sé si lo sabías, brother, pero a nosotros los mexicanos nos gusta mucho imitar a el acento español. Yo sé que es ahí la variación de lenguaje, pero siempre es muy divertido. I was just saying that here in Mexico, we love to imitate the or make impressions out of the Spanish accent, because the Spanish accent feels very sort of like different to us in Mexico than what it is in Spain, of course. And I'm sure our speak or our language sounds very weird to people from Spain as well. Okay, there we go. So yeah, guys, check the votes. We got weapon 1, 2, and 3. So the one on the or the little poll on Discord is about to finish, and the winner is number 1 by a little bit. So we got the winner plasma on that one, and on this one, cursed is winning actually. Interesting. So I'm gonna add the votes on both elements, and it kind of seems like we're going. I mean, Phantom is really close, but we also got Cursed. A phrase I heard in animation that applies to design is, it's all about principles and their sophisticated application. The more sophisticated the application, the better the design. Yeah. I like the Cursed one, not gonna lie. Yeah, the Cursed one is very fun. Like, it's always fun. And I think we haven't really done, like, an evil weapon in a while. We've done, like, Door's sword, which was very heroic. So I'm gonna end the poll now, guys. Thank you. Thank you for your votes. And we're gonna be focusing on the... on this one right here. Chorianim says, ¿qué? ¿Eres mexicano? You sound... Brother, he dicho que soy de México desde siempre. Okay, so there we go, guys. Let's take a look at the cursed weapon then. So, the music's a little bit loud. I'm not sure if just for me or for everyone. I'm gonna move it down on my end. There we go. So here's the thing, guys. The very first, or one of the most common mistakes that people make when dealing with any type of design, any type of creation, is that we jump straight into the actual creation of the element, and we don't give ourselves enough time to understand what it is that we're looking for. What do we want to convey? Okay, and that's the first sort of like thing, or the first what's the word, principle that I want to talk to you about, which is story, right? Remember that in terms of 3D, in terms of what we do as artists, one of the main things that we need to always remember is that we want to tell a story, right? We're storytellers at heart. So if we're not telling a story, if we're not conveying a specific type of feeling, right? The story is heavily tied to feelings, then we're failing as artists. We're not being able to connect with our audience, and we're not able to really generate that, again, that interesting sort of like connection, emotional connection. That's it. I know it sounds very redundant, but it's that emotional connection that we need to have so that we can really make sure that our stuff is remembered. Okay? So what is the story behind a cursed weapon? Very simple. Evil, right? And power. And of course, a cost. So we're gonna have this sort of like triangle of emotions, of elements or storytelling devices that we can use to really convey that this weapon is powerful because it's evil, and because it's evil, that power will have a cost. This is a very simple interpretation. It could also be something like a curse, right? Like I mean, I know it says cursed, so it could be a curse bestowed upon this weapon. It could be a vengeance. Maybe the previous owner was very mad and angry that he died, and he literally held to the weapon via just like the spirit realm or whatever, and made it curse. So there's a lot of things that we can use, but if we keep it just very, very, very simple, we can just try to define the three elements or three feelings that we want people to understand when they see the design of my element, right? So do you agree that these things right here, evil, power, and cost, or a price to be paid, are good situations or good elements that we can use for the construction of our weapon? You understand why I'm going for these particular elements? Flipcakes, what's up, my friend? Welcome, welcome. Roberto as well. Yep, embrace the dark side, ultimate powers. Agreed. Okay, yeah, right? So these are the three main things in terms of, again, feelings and story that we want to do. I saw this very interesting thing about storytelling. This was from a panel. Someone was talking. I don't remember where it was, but there were some Pixar guys there and DreamWorks guys, and the guy presenting said, "We overestimate lore way too much nowadays in terms of storytelling. We think that lore is very important for the success of a game, of a movie, of a series, or whatever. And lore is very fun. I personally love lore. I love learning about like the intricacies of the world and everything. But lore is nothing if you don't have a very strong foundation on the principles of the specific story that you want to tell. So if the characters that you're using on your story, if the elements such as this weapon right here that you want to present are not strong by themselves, it doesn't matter how much lore you invent and develop for that particular element, it's not going to be successful, because people will only be interested in the lore of your object or in the story of your object if the object or the character or the environment or the whatever itself is cool enough and grabs or generates that emotional connection. And this is something that's, again, super, super important with everything that we're going to be seeing today, which is the fact that we need to understand that the design principles and the design elements that we can incorporate into our objects have a very important reason to exist in order to generate that emotional connection to our audience. Does that make sense? I know this is a little bit, again, high theory stuff. It's not just like simple click here, click there. Like, it has to do with more sort of like intricate and more deep thoughts and understanding of the whys we do things. But it's important that we have a good grasp of this, okay? So once we understand that principle requires this sort of like good design principles, right? Once we understand that this emotional connection requires some good design principles, the next thing that I recommend you guys to do is to break down the stuff, okay? We tend to just go and jump and try to draw and clean and create all of these elements. We don't need to do that. We can always start by building up or understanding what are the main motifs, right? You probably have heard this word before. What are the motifs that we want? So If you guys, and I need your help right here on the chats, if you guys right now take a look at this original design by Collins, I want you to tell me what are the 3 things that you imagine are important for this design. Like, I'm gonna redesign this weapon, but I need to keep the spirit, the soul of this design, of the design that Colin came up with. So what are the motifs or the special elements, the graphic elements that we really need to keep? Go. There should be at least 3 of them, at least 3 little things. I'm already seeing 3 very important things that we definitely need to keep. Okay, the skull. Very important, Go Lotus. Very important. That's the first one. And I need you to tell me, Lotus, what does the skull represent? Again, let's go beyond just the basics or like visual thing. What is the thing that the skull represents? What representation are you going to give to that skull, for instance? Death, okay. Evil, okay. What else? The curse, mango. Nice answer. So yeah, the first design is definitely the skull. And we have some connections to the undead, some connections to death, to curses, to evil. Awesome. That's the important thing. Like, when you think about a design element that you want to incorporate into your object, it needs to have a reason to be there. And this is something that I love talking about. I've mentioned this before probably, but there's a design principle that says forms follows function. Have you heard this before? It's a very, very common saying. It was coined by Louis Sullivan in the late 19th century, and this sort of like a form follows function design principle means that if you're going to be building, he used this for architecture, I think, but it means that if you're going to be building or designing something, it needs to be, first of all, very obvious what that thing's going to be doing, and second, it needs to fulfill its function. If you create an airplane that cannot fly, that's not an airplane. If you create a chair that you cannot sit on, that's not a chair. If you create a bed that you cannot sleep on, that's not a bed, right? So if we're going to be incorporating specific design elements into our objects, we should always try to find a good justification for it. Yes, adding spikes and chains and things like that to some of the elements is always cool, and we can do that, but we should always try again to follow a specific line and not just go with whatever we think looks cool. Having that sort of like justification for the decisions that we make in a story-driven aspect or in a story-driven element are always going to be more helpful for the final, again, communication of the design. So yes, this is the first one right here. Some of you already mentioned the other one. We have this like a red aura, like this curse aura. That would definitely be BFX, right? So we need to incorporate some sort of like a red information or magic, maybe some runes or something on the main blade of the element. And then what do you guys see here? This is interesting. I wanna see your opinion on this, like the handle. What do you think that handle is made out of? Originally, I have an idea, but I want to see if you guys can guess it. This is what I would normally do in my classes, by the way. I would start asking my my students. A spine, yeah. I definitely sort of like see this as an either like a spine or sort of like a bone connection. It could be like the spine of the skull. That could be really, really interesting. Now, here's the thing, though. If this is the spine, then this is not a dagger. This is more like a two-handed sword, right? Like, this will be like a really, really intense. But I do like that sort of like spine-looking element or that spine motif that we can incorporate into the object. So this is the next step, guys. Remember that we were talking about breakdown? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab a black color right here, and I'm going to simplify, okay? I'm going to really sort of like, what's the word? Synthesize. I'm pretty sure that's what I want to say, but we're going to grab these 3 elements and we're going to try to simplify them into a very simple shape. So we have a sphere for the skull. Okay, that sphere is going to represent my skull. We're going to have a rectangle for the handle of the weapon, and then we're going to have another rectangle with like a pointy bit, okay, to represent the what's the word? The blade itself. To me, this looks like a dagger, to be honest. Like, if I'm looking at the relationship between the size of the blade and the size of the handle and everything else, to me, it looks like a dagger. I'm not sure if everyone sees the same thing. This could be a sword. Collins, I'm not sure if you're here. He mentioned that he might be here because I asked for his permission to go through these things right here. So I think it's a dagger. if we think that this is a sword, one of the things that we would definitely need to do is make this thing a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to keep it as a dagger just because it's, you know, a little bit more contained. So we have these three elements right here. And the first thing that we can do, again, in terms of design, to make this thing a little bit more interesting is play with these forms. We don't always need to have this kind of forms. Collins, for instance, over here, if we take a look again at the design, he's got a very interesting shape with the blade. Look at that, right? So we got some interesting hooks and straight lines. I love that. I love that. So if we grab this thing, for instance, let's grab right here, we can start sketching the design, just the silhouette of the weapon. For instance, I love that little hook that we have right here, kind of like a sharp like angle. And then we have like a nice straight line over here, another curved angle going down. It ends up in another spiky bit here on the other side. Like that. Actually, I went... Well, here's one thing. I did this a little bit... not on purpose, but it's kind of like a happy little accident. What I'm doing right here is I'm taking Collins' design and I'm just using some of the information that we have in it to increase the... I want to say the edginess of it, but I want to say the silhouette of it right now. Because right now, again, if we think about this element in a sort of like a blocky way, it looks like a very simple square, right? Like this. The simple shape is just like a very nice element like that. Let's really sort of like push it out a little bit more. Let's really like incorporate a little bit more of this design in such a way that we can really make it look a lot nicer. So what I'm going to do is, I really like this sort of like sharp angle. It's kind of like a 90 degree, or sorry, like a 45 degree angle. So I'm going to try to keep that angle. For instance, here. Let's make this a little bit bigger in terms of the brush. So I'm going to... Oh. There we go. I'm going to push this a little bit more like this. Let's add that curvature right there that we had on the knife. All right. And then this ends up in a nice like point right there. Does that make sense? Can you see how we're taking this shape, this very basic sort of like square shape, and we're giving it a little bit more life? This is something that you see quite a bit again in League of Legends and in World of Warcraft, where they're stylizing things and they really push the silhouette into a more aggressive shape for the whole thing. So this right here could be, this doesn't mean that this will be, this could be one of our designs. There's going to be design A. And here's again one of the very important things about design principles, my friends. We always need to do exploration, okay? Very commonly, we are very lazy. That's the unfortunate situation, or the unfortunate reality here. We tend to be very lazy, and we don't do enough exploration to really see if we can find other elements. So for instance, for the second one, what I'm going to do is, instead of having straight angles in some areas, I'm going to have all curved angles. I'm going to have this thing going down to like a hook. This thing going out like that. There we go. Have that nice little claw right there. There we go. And something like that. I always like using the background color as an eraser, so you just paint. So that's going to be design option number 2. Okay, so we just do this very quick silhouette. And remember, we're only doing the silhouette right now for the blade. We're not even talking about like the pommel or anything. We're just trying to figure out which blade shape is going to be a little bit better. So you can see B option right here, we're getting a little bit of a thicker effect, right? And a little bit more curved around the whole elements, around the whole thing. Are we going to stylish or realistic style? We're definitely going to go stylized, because as you can see, this one looks very stylized. Like, this is not something that you would expect to see on a realistic weapon. But yeah, would be the stylized. And then let's try something a little bit different. Let's ignore, or let's sort of like change this thing right here and find a different shape, right? This is again where the exploration and the design elements can come into play. So we know that, for instance, triangles, in terms of shape language, triangles are very intense, very interesting, like figures and shapes that we can use. So what if we start exploring with some triangles and we just incorporate them in an interesting way? Do some like crazy overlaps right here. You probably have seen some graphic designers use similar methods to this right here, where they just grab like interesting shapes, and then once we have the shapes, we can create something out of these shapes, right? So for instance, here, I'm gonna go here, and then 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 I'm gonna go here and probably like that, right? So I started with triangles, just finding some interesting, again, silhouettes and apexes. It's a quick exploration of what we want to try to keep that same spirit from the original design while giving it a way more stylized look, a way more stylized effect. Okay? So there we go. Now, here's the cool thing, guys. We can make very simple variations here, D, E, F, by literally just grabbing the ones that we already have, duplicating them. Okay, so we'll just duplicate them very quickly right here. And then what we can do is modify some proportions, add some different elements. Right, so for instance, on this one right here, I think it's a little bit too thick. So I'm going to sort of like carve it in, generate a little bit of a different like silhouette and element. On this one right here, let's for instance add another little hole right here on the center. And maybe, I don't know, like a hole right there using negative shapes. We don't really have any negative shapes on the upper one, so we can incorporate a little bit of that right there. This one right here, we might be able to add some like extra teeth right here on the back, right? So we're playing with designs. We're just like thumbnailing and finding out interesting ideas of how we imagine the blade to be, again, like created for the whole thing. So yeah, right, the last one kind of looks like the God of War Blades of Chaos. So from all of these ones, my friends, A, B, C, D, E, F, give me what your vote. We're not going to do a poll because it's going to have too many options, but just like right here in the chat, which ones do you like the most? Personally, I really like B. I think it sort of like fits the vibe that I'm going for in my mind. I do like some of the design motifs of E, like those like negative shapes. I think that could be an interesting addition. But I want to see what you guys think. Which ones of these ones do you resonate with? D, this one right here. D is also quite cool. Yeah, I'm gonna agree. D is quite nice. We got E, 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 B or E. E has the most votes for now. We got D. We got E over here on YouTube. A and B. F. Okay, F with Noah. There we go. E, E. Okay, there you go. So it seems like E is the clear winner for this particular area. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to grab E, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to do this layer be a copy, and then we can hide this ones for now. Oh. Let's just go here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can work on a nicer space. Go back. I'm just going to add another layer here, and I'm just going to use this layer to hide the previous elements. I'm not erasing right here. I'm just like hiding them, so that if we ever want to see what we had before, we can always go back. Okay, so there we go. We have this interesting design. Now we need to sort of like clean it up a little bit, right? Because it was just a very rough sketch, and we're going to have to clean it up a little bit. So, just going to use my color here. And mainly what I want to have is I want to capture the proper silhouette or the proper curvature of this thing. So I want to make sure that it goes the right direction, that we have some nice clean curves. This is one of the design principles that I wanted to share with you. Whenever we're doing curvatures, we have something that we call lacy curves or lacy S's. So if you do something like this, right, that's a very sharp S. That's a really nice curvature. Look at the speed right there. Look at how fast this direction goes. You can see this quite a bit, for instance, in Corvettes or in like sports cars. They're gonna have some really aggressive curves, really interesting clean curves. If you do this, that's a lacy S. That's a lacy curve. It's something that's very, wobbly. It doesn't look as intense. It doesn't look as impactful. And therefore, we're not really getting that sort of like interesting, sharp effect. So one of the things that I want with this, especially because it's supposed to be a blade, is I want to make sure that the curvatures here look very, very sharp. So for instance, here on this like high point, if I need to curve this a little bit more out, so we get that nice little hook at the end of the element, that's going to be one of the important considerations that we need to have for the weapon. Okay. And this also becomes a design principle. This is another little lesson. Whenever you're doing a design, one of the things that you want to have is you want to have consistency with the elements. So if you have sharp angles, we should have those sharp angles pretty much everywhere around your weapon. It's not something that just exists like by itself and then just stops. You're always going to have a little bit of that like design and results pretty much everywhere. So I'm cleaning up some of these elements right here. We can have some like sharp angles. Like I like having this sort of like almost like square element right there. I love this like hole right here. I feel like that feels and looks very nice. But here's the thing. Oh, I'm going to show you this one, guys, and you guys are going to love this design principle. Whenever you have a shape, one way to make that shape more interesting is to add supporting elements. This is something that I mean, it's very obvious because of what I do, right? Like, I love being a teacher. It's one of my, like, it's the best thing that could happen to me in my life, to be honest. And one of the reasons why I love being a teacher is because ever since I've played games, especially multiplayer games like League of Legends, like World of Warcraft, like shooter games, right? Like Battlefield, Call of Duty. Well, not Call of Duty, but Battlefield and stuff like that. Every single game I play, the first classes that I always sort of like go for are support classes. I don't know why I love the support role and the support sort of like principle so much. Yeah, D&D, of course. So every time I'm playing a game, if there's a support class like a tank or like a medic that's going to be there as one of the important parts of the group, but it's not going to be the one that takes all the glory and all the big numbers and the big damage, that's usually the class that I go for. Oh, I like to be this guy behind the curtains, just like making sure everything works, right? So following that same sort of like principle, if we think about this thing right here, eventually we can incorporate something inside of that thing. But a very simple element that we can do is we can just add 2 more little circles right here that are going to act as support features, support principles. Look at that, right? It looks so much different by just adding those 2 little elements. And what those 2 little elements do is they help the big circle be like, hey guy, or hey my friend, you are the star of this like section. You are the main shape that we want everyone to focus on. So thanks to those 2 little elements, we incorporate this design and we make it look, a tad bit better. One of those things that it's very easy. And that's another, again, this is a little bit of a life lesson, right? But one thing that I've learned in my 33 years of life is that if you help others, right? Like if you are working in this sort of like supportive role with others, that help will eventually come back to you as well. Like people will remember that and they will help you out later when you need it. So it's a good way to generate or to make your, like if you want to move forward, helping others move forward as well is a great way to make sure everyone moves forward. And it's just, I don't know, so like a magical thing, to be honest. Anyway, so that's it. Look at that. I love this blade. I think we have like a very nice, interesting silhouette. This, I think, has a very, sort of like, again, World of Warcraft, League of Legends kind of like vibe to it. It's an interesting shape. We've definitely seen similar shapes before. I'm not going to deny it. And that's something that's going to happen quite frequently. Once a specific type of design language becomes sort of like famous or well-known, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be looking similar to it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot do something new, because at the end of the day, every single design can be original by itself. So yeah, there we go. Now, that was design number 1. Now we need to focus on design number 2, and this is a skull. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I already know what I want for this one, so I'm going to show it to you, and you guys tell me if this is what you imagine for this weapon. I'm going to go a little bit lighter so that we can have a different color. And what I'm thinking about right here, there's 2 options actually. I have 2 options for this particular skull principle. So I already know that, of course, the skull is going to be right here. The first thing that I know that we're going to do is that the skull is not going to be front view. It's going to be side view. That side view of the skull is going to give us way more of an interesting sort of like effect. Actually, let me show you. This is another exercise that we can do. Let's just duplicate this thing right here. So we have both options. So on this one right here, I want the skull to be facing the blade. It's going to be like this, right? And we can probably have this thing be sort of like screaming. Right? We can make this a more of a ghoulish skull, right? So maybe more like a demon skull or something like that. Again, a very common sort of like design principle. I don't like it. It's looking horrible there. Let me get my drawing back again. So skulls are very interesting. Again, if we simplify the skull is going to be like this, and then we're going to have something like this. But when we open the skull, this like element right here sort of like opens up a little bit more, and we get this thing right here. So what I might want to do here is I might want to push this thing a little bit further back. Let's duplicate this. Let's create a new layer. So it's probably going to be the skull over here. Gonna be the angle of the skull. And the jaw is gonna be like open like this. Something like this, right? So that's an option. Have the skull with the mouth open and sort of like the blade coming out of the mouth. We can add again some like fangs or something to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not super sure about this design, but it's a possibility, right? That we would have like the eyes right there. Would have like the zygomatic arc. We could just do a quick sketch right here to get an idea of where we want this thing to be. Again, it's an option. Maybe some horns, right? Like some little imp horns right there. Not extremely big, so I don't want the skull to be taking too much information. That's another thing. This is another very important design principle. You need to make sure that it's clear enough which part is a nice what's the word? You need to make sure that the elements are not competing against each other in terms of which one should be more important than the other. So yes, the skull is definitely going to have more detail than the blade because of the organic properties of the whole thing, but we don't want to make it super intense. And then the other one, the other idea that I had was having the skull like this in a more sort of like side view way. Right, so again with the teeth and everything, maybe even like the little horns here, we'll need to be careful about them. Oh, this is interesting. We can have like a horn here, and as you can see, it creates an interesting combination with this other element right there. Maybe, let me erase this. Maybe the skull is open here on the back so that we can still see the circles, because I really like the circle design, so I don't want to like break it too much. So maybe the skull is kind of like broken or something, like chipped. Let's fill this in. Will be like the mouth right here. There we go. Or someone mentioned there, maybe it's just like a small skull. Like imps tend to be, or ghouls tend to be so like weak. So maybe we can like play around with that sort of like principle. Be like 2 eyes or something. I don't know. Right? So that could be the idea. I personally, and I had this idea since I started working on this one, I personally like this one right here. So it's kind of like yeah, like holding or sort of like protecting, like you're always looking at the freaking head when you're using the dagger, and eventually you can have like, I don't know, some sort of like magic things coming out from the element over here. So I feel like this could work. What do you guys think? Do you like the first one where the blade is coming out of the mouth, or do you like the second one? Let's see. We got some questions here. Yeah, the skull can act as a handguard a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Here's the thing. Here's something very... Yeah, second one for sure. I agree. So here's the thing. I'm going to grab both of these guys. I'm going to control... Well, first of all, let's make this thing a little bit bigger. So if we grab these two guys, I'm going to press Control-Shift-E to merge them. And we're going to have this one right here. And one thing that I'm noticing is I like it, but I'm not sure if it's just me. I'm thinking about holding this dagger with my right hand. And right now, it will be very awkward to hold because of the direction of the whole thing. So I'm just going to Control-T and flip this horizontal like this. So now if I grab this weapon, now it, I don't know, feels a little bit more correct. Which is the same thing. You could even have like 2 of them, right? And I like the idea that one of you had, which is to use this skull as a sort of handguard. So I'm probably going to be rotating this a little bit. And this is the amazing thing, or the great thing about working, for instance, here inside of Photoshop with like layers and with different like separating the designs into multiple pieces. And that's the fact that you can check like the size of the thing. You can check the angle, like where you want this to be. Like even here, I kind of like it because it generates a little bit of overlap with what's the word? With this circle right there. And that also generates an interesting like shape language. An interesting silhouette. And you have like another little spike right there. We're gonna have to decide what that is. That kind of looks like a horn, right? But we're gonna have to decide later on. There we go. Here we're gonna have definitely some teeth. We're gonna deal with some like cleanup in just a second. Maybe some bigger tit right here. Right, so I'm using a little bit of black color right there to generate a little bit of overlap, like making sure that when we're reading this design, it reads like one thing is on top of the other. I'm not sure about those. Those look a little bit too aggressive. Maybe we'll keep them simple. There we go. So yeah, I like that one. I think we're in a good situation here, in a good position in terms of the design of this weapon. It looks a little bit more interesting. Finally, we're missing the pommel, right? Exactly, the spine handle. And you're right, Flipkicks. Like, we need to make sure that the spine handle, I'm gonna use another color right here. I'm gonna go dark again. I'm gonna do this in another layer, and this layer is gonna be underneath the skull. And here's the thing, on the original design, as you can see, and this is a very common issue. Hopefully Collins is watching this, or we'll watch this a little bit later. But this is a very, very common thing. When we're doing stuff, we tend to make things very stiff. We as humans, we love things that are very like straight and organized. We like our boxes, we like our compartments, we like our doors. And it's fine for some things, but especially when we're stylizing or designing more like crazy elements, we gotta play with those sort of like S-curves. So if you take a look at what we have right now, we have this curve right here. We have this curve right here with the imp, right? Let me go into a layer on top. So we have this curve right here on the blade. We have this curve right here with the head. Where do you think, what direction should the handle have? Right? We have a couple of options. We have this direction right here. We have this direction right here. Or we have, for instance, this direction right here. Which one do you prefer? The red direction, which are going to look more like scythes, right? Like they're going to be really, really aggressive, really curved. The blue one, which are going to look more like you're sort of like pushing things forward or sort of like grabbing them from below, or the S one that are going to look, you know, a little bit more balanced. Which one do you like most, guys? The red direction, the blue direction, or the green direction for the handle? We got blue, green, red, green, green, green. Yeah, I knew green was going to be the one. And the reason why green, like that S-shape right there is so good is because it's a very balanced shape, right? So again, I'm going to grab this like dark color. And we're going to go here. So we're going to go in, following the direction of the weapon, and then out. Something like that. There we go. We need to go roughly from the center mass of the weapon, so right around there. And then out. Now, one of the things that I want to do here is, as we start going out, I definitely want to thin this out a little bit. Remember, we talked about like the proper like proportions of the handles and everything. So I don't want this to be like extremely intense. The character is definitely going to be holding the weapon from the inside right there. Let's clean this up. What is this thing going to be made out of? That's going to be another like important feature for this particular weapon. What material? Bone is a good one. It's a good option. I don't really want to do the spine, and I'm going to explain why I think the spine is not the best idea right now. Or rather, why do you guys think making this with every single vertebrae of the spine might not be the best idea? Has to do with the previous parts. We talked about this a little second ago. There's no space for the hand. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where to have the hand. I'm picturing the hand over here. I'm going to use Control T here. What am I grabbing here? Oh. Second, let's put that right there. Control T. Control T. Make this a little bit more straight. There you go. Down a little bit more. There we go. Not enough contrast. That's good. Exactly, Gabriel. You're right, and Canavidente, you were close to it. The reason why we're not going to be doing the spine is because it will have too much contrast, right? Like there will be too many details happening,
and it will be difficult to really like convey the information that we want to convey. I think that should be more than enough space for the hand. That should work. So what this is gonna do, or what I want this to be, is just a bone, like a piece of bone. We're gonna have some interesting planes, some interesting elements to really like showcase that like sort of like element, and that's it. But it's missing something, right? Like right now we take a look at this dagger, and there's something that we're missing here on the lower portion. What is a very simple thing that we can add? It's not gonna be too complicated, and it can definitely add that last little bit of detail, especially to the handle. What do we normally add to the handles? The skull is better if it's smaller. We can make the skull smaller. Where is the skull? Here. Yeah, we can definitely make this a little bit smaller. So just a little decoration right there. What can we add to the exactly, Alan? Exactly, wraps. No, we're not gonna do gemstones. It doesn't. That's a very good idea, my friend. Canavidente. We're not gonna add gemstones, and the reason why we're not gonna add gemstones is because, remember, every single thing in design has to have a purpose. If this is a cursed weapon from a goal, right, very undead, very sort of like dark and evil, does it make sense for it to have like precious gemstones and like interesting, expensive elements? Not really, right? It needs to be a little bit more, you know, sort of like trashy, a little bit more like made on the spot, stuff like that. So that's why we are gonna go, as someone is mentioning there, for some leather wraps. So I'm gonna grab another like a lighter color again, and we're gonna use this to create some like interesting leather wraps right here. Right, and the leather wraps are gonna be helpful to break up the silhouette a little bit, right? Like the object is gonna be a little bit more interesting in terms of silhouette. There's going to be more material variation, material definition. So not everything is going to be bone. We're going to have bone, metal, and leather, right? And again, usually that number, guys, don't forget that number. The number 3 is such a powerful number in everything we do. Primary forms, secondary forms, tertiary forms, primary details, secondary details, tertiary details, first read, second read, third read, first silhouette, second silhouette, third silhouette, right? So that magic number is what we're doing right here in terms of materials. We're going to have metal, we're going to have bone, and we're going to have leather. 3 materials. That's it. We have our main shape, which is this thing right here, our secondary shape, which is the skull, and then our tertiary shape, which is going to be our dagger. So that number, super, super magical, okay? So again, we're going to add this. And what we can do is some of them can be a little bit smaller, some of them can be a little bit bigger. We can see some of the bone poking through it in some sections, right? But not everything is like on the wraps. But we do want the wraps to feel like they're like covering most of the stuff right there. I am gonna, again, following this sort of like bone principle, I am gonna make this thing a little bit more intense over here. So I'm gonna sort of like chisel this out to really indicate that this is like a bone element, right? That's it. Look at that. So let's grab, where is it? Blade, skull, and this one right here. Awesome. So if we grab this weapon right here and we bring it to the side, I want you to see this difference right here, my friends. This, and Collins, again, I'm not sure if you're here, but this is how we can take a really good idea by Collins and transform it using design principles into something that's going to look a little bit more interesting for our games. Do you like it? Do you like the result that we were able to get with this particular piece? Or those arrows? Not bad, right? And once we make it into 3D, it's going to look even better. Exactly. Now we're going to talk about color. So this is, again, and I want, especially for those who are just joining, I want to go very quickly through the whole design process that we did right here. So we start with a very basic idea or a nice, again, like story or whatever with this weapon by Collins. And we need to extract, this is the most important part, we need to extract the important story feelings, motifs. What is this thing supposed to be? And we're already creating the story. I didn't come up with the story. You guys are helping me with this. The story is that this was a very powerful goal, and he was killed. And when he was killed, maybe by a hero, he decided to transfer all of his energy, or the last remaining bits of his energy, into this cursed dagger to tempt the hero. Maybe tempt the hero into taking the power of this new dagger and corrupting the hero from within, so that he could eventually have his revenge, right? So he died. He's now a weapon, and in this weapon, he's going to corrupt a hero. Maybe the same hero that killed him, maybe a different hero, who knows? But the thing is, or the little story, like general story that we have, is that a ghoul dies and transfers his soul to a weapon that will be used to corrupt heroes. That's it. We don't need to know the name of the ghoul. We don't need to know who killed the ghoul. We don't need to know how the ghoul became a ghoul. Like, we don't need any of that. We just need to have the general pitch of where this weapon is coming from, right? And once we have that, we start thinking about what makes this blade interesting. And we realize that, hey, we have three main elements: the blade, the head right here, or the guard, and the pommel. Once we had that, we went through a little bit of exploration with some interesting shapes that we could use. We decided that this one was probably the best one. And once we had that exploration, we started refining, first of all, the blade, which is going to be probably the most important part of the whole thing. Once we have that, we decided on doing a couple of more improvements here, and we went for the skull, the wraps, and the rest of the element. This now starts looking like a more interesting silhouette, or a more interesting weapon, while still keeping the soul, right? Like the spirit of the initial design. Okay? Any questions so far? No? Okay, so let's go to the next part. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. So I'm going to Control-Shift-E. Control-Shift-Alt-E, which is going to merge all of the layers into a single one. Or actually, let's create just a new document. It's going to be easier to create a new document. Let's create a new document. Let's grab this one right here. And we're going to focus on just our weapon. I mean, I do want to keep the other weapon here as a point of reference for some like color information and stuff. Let's expand this a little bit right there. There we go. And I'm very quickly just going to do a little bit of a cleanup pass to remove all of the unnecessary information that we have right now. The Necrophagia Curse, Blade of the Great Ghoul. There you go. You're already coming up with an interesting story there. Nice. Okay. So, once we have this, we can start blocking in or sort of like thinking about how we want this thing to look. I know, and you guys know, because we have this red element, that we're going to have some sort of like magic coming out of the blade. But the magic that's going to be coming out of the blade, it's not something that I can really paint right here. Well, I mean, I can paint it, but it's not something that we can really model. It's usually going to be a BFX. So we need to think about the weapon without that magic. So if I go here and I start cleaning up all of that magic, you're going to see, first of all, we lose a lot of the appeal. This is why it's so important that our design can stand on its own without all of this like fancy bells and whistles. If your design, and this works for everything, characters, environments, weapons, whatever, if your design depends on the post effects or the post productions of like things, you're not really designing something that's gonna be like cool. It's something that's just gonna fall a little bit flat because it's not strong enough to sustain or be sustainable by itself. Okay. Let's see. Do these principles apply to creature? And yeah, all of these principles apply to everything. Yeah, these are just like basic design principles. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a new layer. Actually, I'm gonna duplicate this layer, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna isolate the blade. I'm gonna paint this out. We still have the other layer, so don't worry, we're not losing anything. And what I want to do, this is very important, is I need to create a pretty much solid black color right here. Because we're going to be using this as a mask, okay? We're going to clean this up. There we go. All of this right here. Now, we need to create a selection. There's multiple ways to create a selection. I'm going, as soon as I finish, again, cleaning up this like black color, I should be able to use a tool that we have here within Photoshop, which is called color selection. There we go. So I'm going to say, or actually, can we try, I'm going to try color selection first, color range. There we go. No, it's not really doing what I want. Okay. Have to be a little bit more specific here. Let me see if I can do the little magic one. There we go. That's much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on rendering this blade a little bit here. Let's fill it in. There we go. So again, I'm going to grab just that weapon right there. There we go. And we're going to mask this out. There we go. This is what I want. And masks are super powerful, as you guys know. So we're going to use this mask to clean this up. There we go. And now I'm going to select the mask, and I'm going to fill this with black. Or here, on the layer itself. Actually, not black. I'm going to go with like a dark, like a metal color. There we go. That's what we want. Let's go back to the mask. And on the mask, let's clean this up a little bit. So remove some of the ugly bits. So what we need to do now, guys, is I'm going to be painting on this layer. And what we've done here is we've created something called a clip-in mask. So everything that we do on this thing would only be within this element. So if I grab this red color and I try to paint, as you can see, I cannot go outside of the element, which is really handy. And this is the first thing that I wanted to communicate to Collins, and I actually mentioned here in the comment. This is what we see on the hand-painted metals. It's what we see on the 3D code characters or the hand-painted character course. So when you're dealing with the creation of a weapon, we need to understand that there are different values that we're going to be using. So usually we're going to have darker values on the lower side and higher values on the upper side. But even before we do that, we need to figure out where the planes of the element are. So what is going to be a sharp portion of this thing, right? So I'm going to grab a lighter color, not super light, just a little bit lighter. And for instance, I'm going to start adding a little bit of a border here on the top of the weapon. Right? Like I would imagine that's going to be a very important part of the sharpness of the weapon. Does that make sense? Then I do want to have sharpness on this area right here. I'm going to start adding sharpness there. So all of that's also going to be sharp. And I do want to have sharpness on this like hook right here. All of around there. Do we want... I don't think we want sharpness everywhere. This is another very important design principle. It's like the metal edgeware, right? If you have metal edgeware everywhere, then it sort of like defeats the purpose of the whole thing. So we're going to have sharpness on some of the spikes, but not all of them. So this one right here, this one right here, and this one right here. Maybe just to finish this one right here. Okay? So that's going to be the area where we're going to have, where we expect to see some of these elements right there. Now, in terms of the light, we always need to think about the light. Where is the light coming from? Well, right now, the light's coming from the top. This curvature right here, from this corner down, is not going to be as light or as bright as this one right here. So I'm going to grab this darker color, and I'm going to start shading this, right, with a lighter tone right here. See that? So that we can really see and we can understand that this thing right here stops at that particular corner. This is casting a shadow into this curvature right here. Again, always thinking about where the light is coming from. So in this case, the light is coming from the top. This one right here, same principle. So on this corner right here, I would expect to see a little bit more of a shadow, right? Going into a little bit more of a light on the bottom part. So we would have something like that. And we start getting this very interesting sort of like metal effect, right? This shiny effect with the whole thing. Now, if we go over on this side, I think I do want to add like a last hook right here. Right there. But since that one's going to be on the underside of the weapon, that one's also going to be shaded dark like this. Does it make sense what I'm talking about here in terms of the values, on how we're using these values to construct some of the basic like elements and shapes of the material? Right? This is going to be flat. It's going to be thick and flat, both of these parts right here. So we're not going to really see anything right now. Yes? Okay, awesome. So now, let's take a look at the circles right here. Because right now, the circles, they don't look very interesting. Why do they look very interesting? Because if we did this in 3D, we would be sort of like cutting through the whole thing. So what I want to do here is I want to give them a little bit of a bevel. And I'm going to paint this bevel in. So I would expect this bottom section of the circle to be shaded with a little bit more light, right? Because it's catching the light from the top of the element. Same for this one right here. And same for this one right here. So we're catching the light. And then I'm going to grab a darker tone little bit of a darker tone, and we're going to be catching the shadow on the top part. Oh. So we're going to have a darker tone right there. And that's going to make these elements look beveled, right? See how we're painting with light? Or sorry, painting with light. We're adding the volume and describing the form of this element without even sculpting. This is just a sketch. This is just the concept of the weapon that we're going to be doing, right? So as you can see, we get that, and we start getting a little bit more of an interesting effect. Let's see. The Vinny Villa says, how much is the importance of Blender in 3D industry? Like, do you think that the person must have knowledge of Blender even though he has knowledge and experience? I think just knowing the basics of it is more than enough. Like, knowing where to do like certain things, because more and more industries and studios are using it. Most people won't really care about where you're modeling as long as you can deliver the model or the sculpt. So I don't think you need to know it, but it being free and just like available to everyone, it's not anything that, or it's not something that you can or it's not something that you could, it's going to help you. That's what I'm trying to say. It's going to help you. So now we are going to do a little bit more rendering on the metals. And what I need to do here is I need to start adding a little bit darker values, especially on these corners right here, to really push the contrast a little bit more towards the lower sections, right? So all of these values right here are really going to push that. And then I can grab these values right here and we can go for the highlights. For instance, if I start adding the highlights right here, like a very concentrated highlight, right? We're going to start making this thing look like it's made out of metal. Because the metals will be reflecting the environment that they're in. So we're going to have that right there. See how just values, just black and white. We're not even doing anything right now. Just black and white. They can add so much more information into our elements. Right? This one, for instance, I would expect the value or the highlight to be there. Maybe a little bit more highlight here on the element right there. And I'm going to show you a very sort of like interesting stylized effect. They do this quite a bit in Arcane, and they do this quite a bit in again in World of Warcraft. Is they carve into the elements and create this like interesting like cuts right here. A nice little trick to indicate a little bit more complexity on the highlights than just like a very basic sort of like blurred effect. Yeah, like an H shape. That's right. A very good way to stylize things. You see this in hair. You see this in metal bits. You see this in metal, of course. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the follow. That was Mirdin. Yeah, it's a really easy way to incorporate a little bit of that design. And this is rendering, right? Like this thing that I'm doing right now, this is what would normally be referred to as rendering, where you start cleaning up the concept. Do I need to clean up this concept like to a perfect shape? Not really, because I'm going to be modeling it. But I am kind of like on the zone right now, so I'm enjoying it. And I'm just going to polish it a little bit more. There we go. Now, for instance, here, I can add a little bit of a rim light on the bottom part there of the blade, just to separate it a little bit more from the rest of the element. Okay, any questions so far? This is why traditional art is really important. I was talking about this with one of my mentees yesterday. Every single thing that you learn for traditional art will help you be a better a digital artist. And anything that you learn in the digital world can also help you be a better traditional artist. Why? Because everything is just so it's so transferable, right? So here I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to add a little bit of variation to the metal. So I'm going to start with a little bit of texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of a darker value here. And as you can see, I can add just a little bit of texture everywhere. And then I can go for a lighter value and same stuff. Just like tap really quickly. Can you see how that's giving me some interesting vibes and interesting texture everywhere? And then this I can set to something like, I don't know, like an interesting blending mode. Like this darker, like that one looks good, but then just like maybe decrease the opacity a bit. And I'm gonna add another layer. And what I want to do here is I want to go for a dark layer. It's gonna be a soft brush. Where do I have a soft brush? This one right here. And I'm gonna add like a very dark tone on the lower sections of the weapon. I can just like sort of like tone this down. And then I'm gonna go for light colors. I'm gonna add a little bit of lighter color. Doing it. There we go. Can you see that? So it's like a little bit of a gradient that we're adding to the weapon, where it gets darker at the bottom and a little bit higher up there on the top. Gonna add another layer here. And now we can really start pushing some of the highlights. So we go back to our highest point. We add another like layer here. Can still be that sort of like H shape that we saw before. Let me grab another brush. I hate this one. Which one was the one that I was using? It's MC square. There we go. Incorporate that. This one has a little bit of texture to it as well. There we go. Grab this one. Even here on the edges, for instance, we can add a little bit of like a kind of like a metal etchware, right? We can incorporate a little bit of that to make this whole thing just punch a little bit more. We're not gonna have like, remember that light sort of like decays, so we're not gonna have the same level of light everywhere. There's gonna be some areas where you're gonna have a little bit more light and some areas where you're gonna have a little bit less light. And the areas that are closer to the light source are the ones that are gonna have the most light in this case. Exactly, the inverse square law. Now here, for instance, I do want to push this borders up a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit of volume here. It's going to bring the edges up a tad bit. And then this edges I'm going to push back. To add a little bit of a sculpted feel to the whole thing. Right? So this is what we have. I'm going to grab everything, Control-Shift-E to combine. And we got this right here. Let's use, I'm going to try using the, what's the word? The object selection tool. There you go. Actually did a really good job. And what I'm going to do is I want to delete the other part. So now, if you take a look, we're sort of like rendering very basic sort of like thing here with our weapon. Now, what can we do with this weapon? What can we do to just give it a little bit more color before we even add any other things? One of the things that we can do is we can use gradients. Gradients are a very cool tool that we have here inside of Photoshop, and pretty much every software has them, where we can map this thing or map the values of this thing to different colors. So right now, for instance, if I set this to red, all of the dark colors are going to be red. There we go. So we're going to go here. If we map this again to red, all of the dark colors of our weapon are going to be red. And if I go to this one right here, all of the light colors of my weapon are going to be green, which is fine. But we of course don't want this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have three colors, three main colors. The first color, this one right here, which is mapped to the blacks, it's going to be a very dark red right there. And the lights, I'm going to go a little bit more towards the yellows. I'm going to go something like that. Look at that. Then we can add another color, let's say here in the middle. There we go. And this middle color, let's keep it a little bit more, maybe orange even. There you go. See that? So this is a very sort of like cool way to change that value construction that we did into something a lot more interesting. Go there. Gonna push this back so that we can start getting, because I definitely want this thing to be like a red weapon. I'm gonna go there, give myself a little bit more meat tones, and then I'm gonna add another color right here. That one's gonna be a nice sort of like bronze color. Kind of looks like blood and bones, right? I think this is an interesting color. Now this one, I'm gonna darken it up a little bit. And then this one, I think it's also a little bit too light, so there we go. Much better. Cool. So this is just an initial idea. It doesn't mean that it's going to be in this particular color. It can be another color. The cool thing is, once we have this, for instance, if we combine this, we can always go to Control U and just change the hues and find like other interesting colors. It's a very sort of like uniform way of changing the colors, right? It can be like a blue. This sort of like greenish hue looks very interesting. Like green colors always look so like interesting because of the ghost effect, right? But kind of like this red, like a bronze red blood weapon. I don't think I've seen too many of this. So let's go with something like that. Just clean this up a little bit by deleting the circle that we're missing right there. And doing that right there. Right? So that will be the sort of like the initial effect. And here's where concept artists can spend a long time just like polishing stuff, right? So if you really want to clean this up and render this to a very high standard, this is where you can do it. Where is my brush? I was using another brush that was working very nice. This is the problem with having so many brush libraries. No. I think this one is a little bit better. Any questions so far, my friends? Should we start with some 3D? Do we want to do a little bit of 3D now? Let's see. If I do a low poly in Maya and a high poly in ZBrush, should I bake the maps in Substance Painter? That's the usual way to go, Rodrigo. That's the usual way to go. You know, we mentioned that this was going to be flat, right? So this is one of those elements or one of those objects that I would definitely do inside of Maya, to be honest. It's just way faster. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to grab my snipping tool here. And let's grab this whole thing. Actually, who am I kidding? We need to bring the whole weapon, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in this layer all the way to the top. There we go. And let's just delete this. Look at that. I'm going to take this whole thing into Maya to start like blocking in the main shapes. And we can do a lot of the blocking things inside of Maya, to be honest. So I'm going to do a snipping tool. Grab this whole thing. Let's save this real quick. I'm going to save it on the desktop for now. Weapon concept. It would be cool to 3D print this, actually. Once we're done, we might 3D print this. Yeah, it's coming together nicely. I like it so far. Please tell me, Huion Canvas Pro 24 4K H2, good for use. I don't have that one. I've never tried that one, the 24 4K Valaji. I have the 19-inch 4K one, and it's really good. So, yeah. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. Maya to open real quick. Meantime, check my messages. have any important message right now. No, dude. Oh no. Shit, man. My brother, he has a cat. His name was Triponcito, and it just died, man. We saw him yesterday. He was a little bit sick, but I thought he was gonna make it. Oh, that's so sad, man. He was a cool cat. Oh, that's horrible. Poor little guy. Can I use this concept to model too, Mosava? Yeah, of course. Yeah, feel free to use it, man. Just like screenshot it and that's it. Oh, Triponcito, such a good cat. Yeah, no, he was a good cat. I mean, it was just a gray cat with like black stripes, but he was really chill, man. It's not my cat, it's my family's cat, but it's still sad. Pets are always such an important part of our lives, right? There we go. Okay, so we're gonna bring this in. There we go. And yeah, we're just gonna start modeling. Now, the cool thing about this one is if you know pre-topology, right? Like we have the, what's the word? We have the retopology course where we go over this. If you know how to like properly build this, it's gonna be very, very simple. If you don't worry, I'll show it to you right now. So here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start with a plane. Make this plane a little bit bigger, rotate it so that it's facing me. Push this thing back, front view, and then change the divisions on this plane to 1. There we go. And I'm going to position this. I usually like to start with like a corner. Let's say this upper corner right here. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be the final sort of like game ready mesh that we are going to be using. Like we can have multiple meshes later on. But if we have a clean mesh, eventually when we do like the game mesh, we can extract it from something like this. So yeah, this is gonna be dedicated to Triponcito. This is gonna be his weapon. He's now gonna be the ghoul that lives in this weapon. So we're gonna go here with Quadro, and we're gonna focus first on this part right here, which is the main blade, right? And I'm pretty much gonna follow the shape of the blade as cleanly as possible. Once we go here, we're just gonna cross to the next area. And this is why having this very clean idea of where the planes are is so important. Because if we have it, it's very easy to do this. It's very, very easy to do this. There we go. I'm going to add a couple more lines right here to just like really capture the curvature. We might be using subdivision, to be honest, to get like the really clean high poly. Here, for instance, I'm gonna ignore what we have on the concept, and I'm gonna modify some of these elements. There we go. And now we just keep filling in this gap right here. This is relatively easy, right? Because once we start filling this sort of like stuff, we just need to follow these elements. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna be doing with the circles in just a second. Now over here, we also want to have a border. Gonna make everything a lot easier. And usually when we have like a 90-degree border, I don't follow the edge loop. So for instance, in this case, since there's no blade or sharp area on this area, I can just keep going on this area or on this part. Go like that. Again, another, so like, actually, I'm gonna make this a 90-degree cut right there. There we go. Because this is, oh, actually, wait a second. I have a little bit of a situation here. So this does need to be like this, because this part right here is going to be a blade area, right? So we're gonna have this thing right here. No, he was not old, unfortunately. He was actually very young. He was like 8 months or something like that, maybe less. He was a kitten. He had his shots and everything, but yeah, unfortunately, he caught something probably. Yeah, my family has a lot of cats. So maybe one of them passed something to the other ones. I don't know. Okay, so here we're gonna just fill in all of these areas. Kind of like a puzzle. I don't really care about the topology on this area, and the reason is it's a flat area. So we really don't mind. We can have We can have a little, I wouldn't say like super crazy topology, but it's just topology to fill in the elements. Even with triangles and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Now here's the fun thing. Circles, right? So for circles, you always want to have at least 8 sides. 8 sides is like the golden number for circles, and I always like to have like a medium or like a mid division right here, right? Like going from top to bottom, left to right. So we're gonna have 1 2 1 2 right here, and then 1 2 1 2 1 2. There we go. So as you can see, we have 8 sides. Of course, we're gonna have to add a couple of extra elements over here to properly connect the circles. Again, I don't care too much about this area, and the reason why I don't care too much about it is because it's a flat area, and we're going to be using this just to sculpt, to generate the element to sculpt. So it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So we go here, 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 and here. There we go. Again, that's 8 sides. I'm not sure if I want the circles to be perfect. Again, being a ghoulish weapon, I think we can have a little bit of asymmetry on the circles, and that's gonna make it look a little bit more interesting. So it doesn't have to be perfect circles. And then for this one, we do need to increase the amount of like division. So instead of 8 divisions, I'm gonna go with like probably 12. There we go. Okay. I don't like using triangles at this early in a stage, but we might need them for these tricky areas right here. There we go. Because one of the things that I want to try to keep is the loop going around the elements. There we go. And now again, as I mentioned, we just fill this in. These are not super important areas, to be honest, because they're flat. If I was doing this for subdivision modeling, I would spend way more time like figuring out all the proper connections and everything. But in this case, really doesn't matter that much. And then over here, it does matter. So I'm probably gonna have like a triangle there, because this was another like sharp part of the weapon. There we go. And then where is the sharp part going to end? It's interesting. We didn't thought about that. So probably with a triangle here. There we go. There, and there. Awesome. So this gives us, as you guys can see, a very basic construction of the profile of the weapon. Pauline, there you go, my friend. How are you? Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you do watch the full like first hour of this stream where we talked about the design process, and I transformed this was your idea into this one right here, right? So we're gonna keep going from there. So now what I want to do is I want to give this thing sharpness, right? Like I want to make sure that the edge is like a little bit more intense. Started, have I tried Instamat? Yeah, I actually did. They reached out to us last year and they sent me a copy of the software to try. I really, it's not that I didn't like the software. I didn't feel as comfortable with the pipeline that they were introducing. It seems to me that it's a very complete package because it's trying to combine Substance Painter, Blender geometry nodes, and Substance Designer into a single one. I think it's a powerful software, really powerful. However, it's not really industry standard yet. Like I don't know any studio that might be using it. So that's why it's not that I wouldn't recommend it. It's just keep in mind that if you use it, it's going to be better if you're using it as a freelancer to solve your own sort of like pipelines rather than trying to learn it to get into a studio. Okay. So let's extrude this thing. And this is what I'm going to do. This is a very simple way to give your weapons thickness. You just extrude them to give them, that little pass. And then you grab the edges and you collapse them. And that's going to give you the sort of like the strong effect that we want to have right here. Now we also have an edge pretty much all the way to the bottom, right? Yeah. So all the way over here. So all of those edges we're also going to collapse. See that? That gives us the sharp edge that we want to have right here. And then here, we're also going to collapse to get the sharp edge there as well. And finally here to here, we're also going to collapse. Now, unfortunately, as you can see, we're going to have some issues here. So maybe that one we don't collapse. And then how do we solve this one right here? Okay, so for this one, we're going to have to change the topology a little bit. I'm going to add a cut right here. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this thinner. Maybe with self-selection, so that we get a nice, like, uniform distribution of this new thing. And for this thing to be, I'm going to use a snap merge. Go there. Go there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And now let's delete that face and that face. Yeah, much better. As you can see, we got like a very nice pointy bit right here. Flip kicks. Props like this gotta be one of the most fun things to model and paint and everything. Yeah, they're very fun. And you do need to make quite a bit of them, to be honest, in a game. Okay, here we need to figure this out. This is I don't like this geometry right there. So let's see. Because that looks horrible. I know it's gonna be like hidden by the ghoul's face, right? But it just looks so bad. So I'm gonna grab this face right here, push it down. Let's merge there. Oh, merge to center. And then this one, I'm going to snap weld there. And then how do we solve this? We can have multiple triangles, I guess. I don't really like the idea, though. And I don't want to continue this all the way to the bottom. No, we're probably going to have a sort of like a weird triangle here. Trying to think. Okay, let's try this. Let's try grabbing these guys. Pushing them in. And then bringing this guy down. Snapping them together. How can you collapse all the edges? I don't know the shortcut, man. There has to be one, but I really don't know it. Now, that's going to generate something called non-planar faces, and we don't do those. It's a tricky situation here for this weapon. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a couple more triangles here. I don't love this idea, but I think it's one of the only options. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an edge loop right there at the very center. Going to triangulate there to avoid having any sort of like weird distortions. And then what's gonna happen is we're literally gonna bridge from here to here, and from here to here. And then, as you can see, that's what we call a non-planar face. So in order to avoid having that non-planar face, I'm going to triangulate here. And I'm going to triangulate here. Like that. So now this thing is flat. And that thing is flat. Right? That to me makes a little bit more, more sense. So now let's just do a bridge right here. Well, let's do. I'm gonna go top view. Gonna delete half of the faces. Hey, what the hell? There we go. Have the faces. Then let's bridge this, bridge that. Do we have any other like weird triangle or anything? It'll happen here. I think we're fine. So now we're gonna mirror this. It's gonna be C bounding box negative, positive. There we go. And now, just to clean this, we need to bridge these guys. Right? So the squares we bridge and the triangles we just feel. That. Way bridge. I hate when this doesn't work. I mean, we can just go into Quadro. Still, no. We can do 1, 2, 3, edit mesh, and there should be one called fill hole. Sorry, mesh fill hole. Does that work? Oh, it's not working. The problem with this kind of faces, we might need to convert this again to a non-planar face. So right there. There we go. Let's see. Sometimes they're the character's face also when we work on some weapons, props. What? Story anchor. Yeah. Yeah, no, weapons are very iconic as well. Okay, here I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm just gonna grab this edge, this edge, this edge. Control E. Extrude. And then just collapse to center. That's a lot easier than trying to get everything to work properly. And finally, this one right here. And we have a little bit of a non-manifold edge there. So, like a non-planar face. Let's fix that. There we go. A little bit better. There was a tool, I used to use this tool quite a bit. A pen to polygon tool. Click, click. There you go. Oh, I haven't used that tool in years. Let's do a quick bridge right there. Change the twist. There we go. Quick bridge right there. And a quick bridge right there. With a little bit of a twist. There we go. Now finally, the last little thing that I want to add is just a quick little bevel on this guys right here. There we go. There we go. We're gonna bevel those. Small one, not too intense. And that's it. That's the weapon right there. Now, you guys want to know something funny? Or you guys gonna want to realize something funny about this weapon? What if I told you we don't actually need to sculpt this and we can just jump straight into hand painting? Like, we can literally just jump into hand painting right now. And just bring this into, what's the word? Into freaking 3D code and just get to painting. Why? Because all of the details that we could sculpt, we can just paint as well. Just that. Just like that. Not gonna do it right now because we do need to sculpt the imp's head, right? But it's something to keep in mind. Now, this is a very important question, or important like a thing. When you're modeling a weapon, you always want the front of the weapon to be facing forward. So in this case, I'm gonna rotate this like this. Just make sure that's, and I'm gonna make sure that this is perfectly centered, top view and everything. Because when you attach this, especially with rigging, we can do it like that. Okay. So, but no, I do want to sculpt it, to be honest. So here's what we're gonna do. We're going to take this into ZBrush. We're gonna take this into ZBrush and we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup and sculpting here. Fortunately, when we press number 3, we get this very soft effect. The one thing we can try and do, not sure if it's gonna work too much. We'll try adding some support edges. As we have a lot of triangles, it's not really gonna work. I'll show you another method inside of ZBrush, okay? Reset history, maybe? Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so let's say File, Export Selection, Desktop. Let's call this Blade. Second. Okay. So we're just gonna say import desktop And we have the blade right here. So there's a little trick that you can do, especially with low poly elements like this one. I mean, first of all, we could just jump straight into Dynamesh, right? But I do want to give it a little bit of a subdivision, but I want to try to keep the sharpness that we have before we sort of like clean it up. So I'm going to go to geometry. I'm going to remove this smooth option. And when I divide, it's going to divide the element without actually smoothing it. It's just adding more geometry, but it's not actually smoothing it. I'm going to give it one more, and then I'm going to turn this on again. And when I'm going to divide one more time, and as you can see, we're going to get a way sharper effect for the whole thing. Get a little bit of an issue there with a merging effect. That's fine. I feel like we can just solve it with a quick Dynamesh. It's not perfect. Let's increase the resolution. Let's see if that works. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. We can always clean this up a little bit better here. So let's just start smoothing things out. That's it. So now we're inside of ZBrush. Definitely gonna increase the resolution here. Dynamesh again. Let's clean this. So how do we clean that? Very easy. We just use select lasso. So I'm going to use select lasso. I'm going to delete the areas that we don't want. There we go. All of this one's right here. We're going to say delete hidden and Dynamesh. That's going to clean the holes, and we just start sort of like polishing that edge a little bit more. If we need to, we can be a little bit more precise there on the cut. Delete hidden and Dynamesh again. I've shown you this before, guys. If you want to have like a super razor sharp thing, you definitely do need proper topology, right? RKG says, I'm having a really hard time getting the inspiration or discipline to do this stuff on my own, but content like this helps me get back on track a bit. There you go, my friend. I'm glad that's that the content is helping you that way. But I'm going to be completely honest with you, RKG. Do you want to do this? Like, do you actually want to be an artist? Because if you actually want to be an artist, you shouldn't be having issues with the discipline. I'm not saying motivation. Motivation, I totally understand. I struggle with that a bit as well. But in terms of discipline, you shouldn't have that. Do you feel angry? Sculpt. Do you feel sad? Sculpt. Do you feel stressed or anxious? Just sculpt. Just got to do the work. That's what differentiates a professional artist from just like a hobbyist or someone that's not taking this seriously. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be inspired. You're not going to be motivating 365 days of the year, right? 24/7. Like that's just not the reality. We as humans, we cannot do that. And not like no one in every single like discipline, like all of this like top level athletes, the best surgeons, the best lawyers, like they're not happy, inspired, and motivated every single day of their lives, right? So you need to understand that, or what's going to separate you rather from someone that's a professional and someone that's not, is that you will be doing it. You will be working regardless of how you feel. You need to separate feelings and emotional status from your execution, right? Of course, there's going to be like times, I don't know, really hard times where if someone close to you passes away or something like that. Yeah, it's understandable that you're not going to be able to function properly. But a lot of people, and I'm not saying you do this, but a lot of people will use this excuse of, oh, I'm not feeling well today, I'm not going to do anything. So, do you think the whole world's feeling perfect every single day? Do you think I feel perfect every single day? No. Just do whatever. Just work. Start working. Yeah, as Becker says right there, make art every day. Learn something new every day. Always learning, always improving, right? I'm going to use here Move Infinite Depth to clean up the curvature of my weapon. Because, of course, we see a very sort of like lacy curve. We talked about this on the original design. And Move Infinite Depth is really, really good to really move both sides of the weapon at the same time. Again, if we want to have like a super razor sharp thing, we definitely need to have like super clean topology. Sometimes this is more than enough. So for instance, here, the circles, right? Like the circles definitely looking a little bit too crazy. So I don't want to have a perfect circle, but it doesn't mean I want to have like the sided, the 12-sided elements on the objects, right? So I'm gonna sort of like hide it or move it. I do mods, that's why I got into this. Not a big person on character art, do a lot of weapons trying to do armor, which is hard. Really struggle with putting ZBrush into my workflow, so this helps some. Thank you, Matt Hydro. Have you seen my my ZBrush course? The one with the Oni? It's on my site. That one, it's one of our best courses, to be honest. Hundreds of students have done their own like version of it. And it teaches all of the basics for ZBrush. So, this one right here. If you're struggling with ZBrush, check this one out. The first couple of videos are completely free, and you can get a nice introduction of the whole thing, and it's going to teach you a lot. I know that one's character related, but all of the principles will apply to what's the word, to weapons or anything. For instance, here I'm going to use polish instead. Polish tends to be another really good one because it respects the borders a bit more. Thermodynamic tends to erase those things. Polish in this case is a lot stronger. Because it will clean up the surface, but they will do it such a way that doesn't destroy the actual elements. Of course, weapons like this tend to be symmetrical because you're never going to see both sides of the weapon at the same time. So you can do this asymmetrically. Yeah, I expected that question, Fishy. Do you still need symmetry on in order to use this brush? No, you don't need the symmetry for polish, but I am using it because, as I mentioned, for weapons, usually symmetry is fine because you're never, it's pretty much impossible to see the weapon from both sides. There we go. So as you can see, polish here is really helping clean up those borders. Give me a nice, sharp curvature and silhouette. There we go. Here we do need to delete this, so I'm gonna do a delete hidden. Dynamesh. What's up? Barisoki, what's up, my friend? The ZBrush for iPad is gold too. If you have an iPad, yes, that one's really good. No, Alan, I haven't watched the video, to be honest. Haven't watched the video. I saw the announcement. Well, I saw like a post on Reddit that was talking about it. Okay, there we go. Let's clean this up a little bit. Well, actually, on this one, I am going to be a little bit more aggressive with the bevel. Play more with this, like, decayed effect on the air circles. Thank you for the follow, Quack. Thank you, my friend. By the way, guys, if you're on YouTube, one of the goals that we have right now, and it's just a vanity thing, but we really want to get the little, like, the 100k sub, like, plate. If you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hopefully the content that we're doing is being useful to you. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding a little bit of secondary detail. And it's this little, like hits and changes in the silhouette, right? Things that are going to be modifying the form of the blade a bit. You're going to be adding a little bit more, you know, interesting detail. We're going to keep it simple, right? Like, we don't want to overdo it. One of the things that they definitely want to do is I want to add, you know, a little bit of variation on the metal as well. Like, I don't want the metal to be perfect. I'm using a little bit of clay buildup there, for instance, to just generate some interesting, like, volumes pushing in and out. See that? So see how that, like, the effect and the glow on the metal definitely changes. We can do this with paint, but if we can do it in sculpt, we can extract this information with maps and use that as well during the painting process. I really like this really like this approach as well. And of course, we have the brushes, right? We have the orb brushes. Where are they? Are specifically designed for this kind of stuff. So for instance, I'm gonna use this orb flatten edge. It's really good. And this one will give us really nice, strong, like edges. Kind of like trim dynamic, but a little bit more sharp. See that? If you don't have these brushes, you can get them online. They're completely free. They're really freaking good. Let's see. Hey, Ave, do you have any tips for rigging a high poly model? I'm currently struggling with the weight painting because it's hard to paint all the little stretch meshes. You don't rig a high poly model. That's the reality of things, man. Like, what or how high poly are you actually going? Because normally you rig a low poly mesh and you transfer the details with a what's the word? With a displacement map or with a normal map or something. It's not very common that you're going to be rigging. If you mean posing, I would do the posing inside of ZBrush. That is possible. To pose the character inside of ZBrush. We do that in the anatomy course. But we don't usually do rigging for a high poly mesh. Name is a Snake says, problem I have with learning 3D modeling is the software and interface. I don't feel like I'm sculpting unless I use my hands. I know there's a steep learning curve for ZBrush, but the whole pipeline scares me. Yeah, it's scary, and I'm gonna admit it. I struggled with it at first. The first time I started learning 3D and they taught me ZBrush, I hated it. I hated ZBrush, and I just went back to Maya and box modeled everything because I found that pipeline to be a lot more approachable. But then I told myself, hey, well, if I want to do this like professionally for a living, right, I need to learn it. And even though it's scary, I know it's scary, learning anything new is challenging and scary, you have to go through it. you have to do it. You have to take the leap of faith pretty much, and understand that that this challenge that you're facing right now will eventually be the stepping stone that's going to get you to the level that you want to have. Okay? Yeah, and as Alan says, once you understand the basics and the principles, you start loving it. It's like, oh, this is actually quite cool. And you just feel comfortable with the software. Get a tablet. You don't have to get like the most super fancy tablet, but definitely get a tablet because that one's going to help you. Go a little bit more aggressive here now. Again, this is like a ghoulish weapon, so I think we can go a little bit more aggressive with some of this damage. And here what I'm doing, guys, is I'm following another design principle rule where I'm trying to incorporate medium level details. I'm incorporating big level details and small level details, right? Like you don't want to have like a uniform level of detail everywhere. That's another like very common mistake that people make with their weapons. I don't like that one. And with their characters and everything, right? Like they add detail everywhere. Too much detail everywhere too quickly. And that can also give you a weird result. Yeah, this is probably going to be a hand-painted weapon, Sanable. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it today. We only have like 1 hour left on the stream before I need to go and do other stuff. But we'll definitely come back to it later. Yes, Fernando, we keep the video on YouTube, so you can watch it on YouTube. Yeah, I don't think we're taking these ones down. How does a 3D printing workflow looks like? Is it just like we model it, drop the FBX or object? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not big eye. There's a couple of things that you need to consider, of course, but in general, that thing that Jim mentioned is roughly the the steps that we normally take. Go. Now we definitely need to incorporate some of the other elements, at least the base mesh, I would say. Because right now, I like how the blade is looking. I think we're in the right direction. But if we don't see the handle and we don't see the skull, it's gonna be very difficult to really judge how we're doing, right? Should we add a little bit of a cut here? Let me show you what I mean. Like sometimes on these weapons, we're gonna have those little like nicks. I think so, right? We can add like a little one right there. Maybe another one right there. Maybe a big one. Feels like a little bit too much, right? Kind of like it, but from a silhouette perspective, I'm not sure if... ¿Qué se say? Lo sé, pero estaría chistoso que se tomara la clase en inglés. Está raro ir al profe a hablar español. Ah, podemos hablar en español. Cuando doy mis mentorías, las hago en español. When I'm doing my mentorships, especially if the students speak Spanish, I'll do it in Spanish. So. Yeah, not there, right? It will break. I agree. Oh, let's just keep it. I don't know, because those always look interesting, but maybe not. Maybe I don't know. No, I think the weapon's fine enough without those elements. No, I don't have courses in Spanish, unfortunately, my friends. And the reason why I don't is because it takes a long time to record them, and it's not as easy to do the Spanish version. We've tried doing some automated like a translation with AI and stuff like that, but it sounds horrible. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I know that here in Mexico and in Latin America, it will be very comfortable to learn everything, all of this stuff in Spanish, right? Because it's our native language. But this is a very global skill set, right? So it's a strongly recommended that you learn English. Like the difference I see in artists that know English and those that don't is like immense. It's day and night. So if there's one skill that you need to learn as a 3D artist, and this applies of course to everyone, right? But if there's one skill that you need to learn, it's English. Like, learn English, guys. Most of the tutorials are in English. Most of the studios work in English. Most of your clients are going to be speaking English in some way or form. So it's very, very important that you do learn English. For every career nowadays, right? But especially for art, it's just like fundamental that you do. Okay, so let's go very quickly to Maya and let's do a quick blocking of the handle, right? So let's go front view. I'm gonna rotate this around for just a second. And let's do the handle. So for the handle, we're just gonna use a cylinder, to be honest. I'm gonna reduce the amount of like sides to something like 12 for easy management. And I'm actually gonna delete the caps for now. So I'm gonna just leave the vertices on the top. There we go. And we're just going to trace this, pretty much. So I'm just going to use this to like trace this. Here's a quick tip. Just push this all the way down. Get it where you need it to be. Like right around there. And then use your cut tool. Add some cuts. And it's a lot easier to get the cuts into position, right? Instead of having to do everything one by one, you just do it. And it's just a base mesh, right? We're going to be sculpting and adding more volume for this thing inside of ZBrush. So I just want to have like a very basic construction of where this thing is. Don't like that line right there. What I do want to have here, though, is that the curvature that we've been so careful about. How do you retopo dips like that when you do it? You don't retopo dips. Those details are usually baked down into your object, into your asset. You don't, remember, not every single detail that you sculpt needs to be retopo. It really depends on the asset and the kind of stuff that you're like doing. Excuse me, you know. What's up, my friend? How are you? Welcome to the stream. Seems like you're new here, right? Maybe yes, maybe not. There we go. Let's snap this to the center. There we go. That's way too thick, of course. So it's going to be a little bit more cylindrical. So right around there. You can see I messed up the thickness here. So let's bring it back. We can adjust this inside the ZBrush, of course. But it's a good idea to have a sort of like a uniform distribution. And great, now I'm probably the first streamer to pronounce my username correctly. Welcome, dude. Welcome. I learned German when I was in high school. I really want to pick it up again. I even got my certificate and everything. I think it was like a B1 certificate. Was that it? Pretty sure it was. So I can like kind of understand it now, but I need to really like learn it. Oh, that's a tricky question, Devanil. The first question that I would ask you is, do you have the means to travel to Europe or to the US, or like to travel outside of India? Because it's not very easy to get hired unless you have the means. You probably have seen the current geopolitical situations that we have all around the world. Getting visas and stuff like that is getting more and more complicated, right? So that will be my first question. Like, do you have the means to travel and sustain yourself? I mean, like, can your family help you out for like an internship or things like that? Because if you can do that, then that will be a sort of like first step. But unfortunately, yeah, the situation again, it's a little bit tricky right now. Guten Tag. Hallo, mein Name ist Abe. There were some of the like very funny words that I remembered. I'm gonna try it. Ich kann Deutsch verstanden, aber ich kann es nicht sprechen. That was like a quick like I can understand a little bit of Eichhörnchen is always a good one. Krankenwagen, I remember Krankenwagen. the wagon for sick people or for injured people, which is ambulance. Use me. Your PC is running like a butter so smooth. What are the configuration? So I do have a very strong PC. It's not like the strongest PC ever, but I do have a strong PC. Right now I'm running the 5080 RTX for graphics card, 64 gigabytes of RAM at 6000 megahertz. I got the Ryzen 950. Yeah, so Ryzen 950. 60 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of RAM, sorry. SSDs and all that stuff, and the 5080. You don't need all that. This day 32 gigs is not enough. I would say 32 is still like a really good starting point, RKG. But yeah, if you can afford 64 gigabytes, because nowadays RAM is so cheap, right? Well, not so cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than it was a couple of years ago. So let's export this file selection. Cool. Import. Handle. Okay. Subtool append. And of course we need to rotate this 90 degrees. There we go. Let's do a couple of smooths. Actually, I'm gonna do the same trick. So I'm gonna go geometry, divide a couple of times, and then turn this on, and then smooth, so we get a little bit of a sharper effect right there. Oh, which one is not centered? Is this not centered? Okay, so here's a trick if you want to center your stuff. If you go to Subtool and you append any shape, let's say for instance a sphere, the sphere will always be on the center of the ground or of the world. If you grab the sphere and then you go to align, you can align vertically, and as you can see, the handle just boop, moved to the center of the element. So now I can be completely sure that they're both living on the center plane of the object. Let's Dynamesh, of course. No need to freeze resolution. And here we turn on symmetry, of course. We're cleaning up. So the main thing that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give this a sort of like bone-like appearance. Right? So bones usually have this like bulbous, roundish shapes on the top. Right? Which is where they sort of like connect and interlock with the next bone in the skeleton. So I'm going to do something like that. Definitely increase the resolution. Start working with a bit of a higher effect. Down here, I'm going to do something similar. So I'm going to add a little bit of a bump right there. And then I'm going to inflate this one because it's sort of like breaking. There we go. Dynamesh. And then, of course, to get that sort of like stylized look, I'm going to use Trim Dynamic. Start creating some like interesting planes, right? That's one of the secrets, I would say, about stylized stuff is that you have a lot of sharp angles. Little planes and indentations. My brother stays in Canada, so from my family side, there is support from them. But how do I prepare myself? You need to have a really good freaking portfolio, man. Like, that's the, like, if you already have the connection, for instance, in Canada, then that's great because eventually you could travel there and start applying to studios directly, right? Like networking and stuff like that. But the best thing that's going to open doors for you is going to be your portfolio. If you don't have a good portfolio, there's no way you're going to be able to easily land a job because it's a lot easier for those companies to hire locally, right? It's a lot more, or it's less expensive for them to hire locally. And you need to have like a really, really good reason to be hired. So yeah, a portfolio is going to be your key there. I have just 8 GB of RAM with 8 GB graphic cards without grabbing these processors. No, that's fine, man. That's fine. No off-topic questions. They're part of what we do here with 3D. My advice is if you know how to build your PC, get a budget. I actually have actually, you know what, Alan? We should make a video about like PC components. Because the one that we had, I think it's a little bit outdated now. Like 2 years ago, I think, or last year. We might want to update. Can I just apply to a company as a character artist even though they're not looking for one? You can. I mean, the odds of you getting hired are going to be very, very low, but you can definitely like send your stuff. The only thing that's important is not to be obnoxious, right? Like, the worst that can happen is they don't answer. The second worst thing that can happen is they answer you, but they tell you they're not hiring right now, right? Like, those are like the two of the main sort of like options when applying somewhere. You either don't get an answer back or you get an answer, it's a negative one. Okay, cool. You just suck it up and keep working. The best thing, or one of the best things that can happen, well, the best thing is that you get hired, of course. But one of the best things that can happen is you get a response and they tell you exactly what you need to improve upon based on what you send them with your portfolio. So if you send your portfolio, they're like, hey, we saw your portfolio. Thank you very much for applying. We really appreciate your time, whatever. We noticed that your anatomy needs a little bit more work and your character designs are a little bit on the weak side of things. Like, oh, that's awesome because they're already telling you what you need to improve. So what I would do is I would like really focus on improving that. And when you see the position open, you apply again, right? Because one of the worst things that you can do, and unfortunately I've had, like there was this, oh, I'm going to tell you this story, guys. Very sad story. So a while ago on LinkedIn, there was this peer of mine. She was a student at Noman as well. And she was really, really, really trying to apply to Blizzard. Like, she really wanted to work at Blizzard. But her attitude, unfortunately, was very obnoxious. Like, she was, I don't know, it felt very entitled. It's like, oh, what else do I need to do to get there? My portfolio is good. I've applied several times and I don't get a chance. And I see other people who have worse portfolios than I do. And they're getting hired or they're getting into the internship. Like, what is it that I'm doing wrong? Like, she was like really ranting, right? It's like, dude, that's not the way to do it. And least of all on LinkedIn, right? Like, you don't want to like be that guy. And people were telling her, it's like, hey, you shouldn't really be doing this. We understand your frustration, but this is not the way to approach it. You don't want to be seen as this type of artist. Your attitude is not really helping. And she just went on a rant for like a couple of days, months even. And unfortunately, again, like, you don't want to be that guy. So if you apply and they tell you fix this stuff, fix it, but don't just immediately apply. Like, fix it, improve upon it, try to land a jump somewhere else first, and then you go back, so that when they see you again, they're like, oh, this is really, really cool. This guy has really like grown as an artist, and he's really doing some nice things, right? That's what you want to really try to do. Second here. We go. Yeah, exactly. It's not just about being a good artist. It's also about being a good person, being someone easy to work with, someone that people enjoy interacting with, right? There we go. I really like this bone. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a detail here, and this is again where research really comes into play. You take a look at the femur, which is one of the biggest bones on the human body. You're gonna notice that the head of the femur has this thing called the neck. This is what elderly people tend to break when they fall, when they break their hips, right? It's this bone right here, because with age and osteoporosis and all that kind of stuff, it really gets very weak. So as you can see, the head has a little bit of a smoother finish in terms of the rest of the elements. So I feel like we can do that right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger, a little bit smoother, and then this is gonna be like the neck of that that bone. Can add a little bit more of a bump right here. Reap says, yep, as a hiring manager, I'd much rather have someone who's enjoyable to work with and has a great collaborator. Exactly. I've hired my own like fair share of artists for the projects that we do here with the museums, and I've had some of them that are amazing. Like, I hate to see them go when they find like a better opportunity. I'm so happy for them. It's like, oh man, you were such a good artist. Like, it's a shame to see you go, right? And then I've had some that are like, I just want your contract to finish because I cannot I cannot stand you. Like, I do not like working with you. You don't have that attitude, like the proper, like, I'm not even talking about going the extra mile. I'm just talking about doing the bare minimum. Like, I just want you to do the bare minimum work that I'm asking you to do with a good attitude, right? Like, I'm not asking you to stay over or like do like extra hours or anything. And they don't have that. It's like, oh, well, like, I just want this to be finished so that I can get rid of you, pretty much. So yeah, like, you really want to be an artist that can feed a pipeline and be enjoyable. Like, yeah, just be someone that people want to work with. Yeah, bone is looking fine. I like it. I like how this is looking. You're craving chicken wings? I'm craving pizza. Or no, you know what I'm craving? I'm craving Chinese. They're gonna get some Chinese food. Do we have anyone from Thailand right now here? Because you guys have the best dish. Like, I could eat this dish every single day of my life, and I would like be completely happy. And that's freaking... Let me show it to you. Oh, I'm just getting watery thinking about this. Red Thai curry. Oh, so freaking good. So freaking good. You know, your red Thai curry with a nice serving of rice by the side. Oh, so tasty. So freaking tasty. Bennicam says, I'm starting my portfolio course soon, thinking to do something similar to Alan Wake, but I feel like that art style atmosphere is pretty unique. Might be bad to focus my portfolio on one studio. Yeah, it really depends. Like, if you really want to work at that studio, then the best thing that you can do is try to match their style. But if you want to be a little bit more flexible, then yeah, doing something that's a little bit more globally used in other pipelines might be a better way to go. What material preset are you using? This is from Glauco Longi. He's an amazing artist, and he shared his materials a while ago. I'm not sure if they're still around, but this one's called Longi Plastiline. These are like brownish color that I really like. Have you ever tried Indian dish, butter chicken, and tandoori naan? No, no. Unfortunately, when I was in the U.S., I was in Los Angeles, I didn't eat too many or too much Indian food. I tried some curries as well, I think, but I didn't try those ones that you're talking about. Dav says, hey, this is my first stream joining in. Your video helps me a lot with substance. I wanted to ask you, are you a teacher? Yes. I think I would call myself a teacher, my friend. I'm currently a think tank mentor. So I help the students in their mentorship term where we work on their portfolio pieces. I just finished my mentorship. I had 3 students, and one of them did such an amazing job. I'm waiting for him to publish his work because he did such a good job. I'm really, really happy for him. I also teach here locally in one of my universities, here in my hometown. I teach online. I have courses, as you know. I teach with the YouTube videos. I teach here with the live streams. But yeah, I'm a teacher. Really teacher. Actually, I think if you check my ArtStation link, don't remember what they call myself. I think it's 3D artist and instructor, right? Yeah, there you go. 3D artist and instructor. So, yeah. Play a little bit here with the thickness. Make sure there's enough room for the hand. And we're going to be introducing the handles in just a second. Or not the handles, the straps, right? The straps. Is it worth spending money on brushes, models, or materials made by others for ZBrush? Yes, it's definitely worth it if they save you time, right? Like that's always the question that you need to ask yourself, especially as a professional artist. If you can save, let's say, 2 or 3 hours of work by buying a brush instead of doing it yourself, of course it's worth it, right? Because you're getting paid for it. When you're a student, though, I do recommend trying to learn all of the things first before you start buying all of assets, because then you can skip a little bit of that learning process, and then you're gonna have some holes in your knowledge about how to do certain things, right? So if for instance, if you've never done a rope brush inside of ZBrush, I have a video on YouTube that you can check. If you've never done a vector displacement brush inside of ZBrush, I have a video that you can check. Do it once. Do it twice. Like, learn how it's done, and then you can just buy brushes if you need them for a specific thing. Okay. So let's do some bandages here. Oh, let's save. I haven't saved. Save real quick. So let's go weapon or assets, and this one's going to be called the Gold Dagger. Rename Gold Dagger. There we go. Where are you from, Abe? Since how many years have you been in this creative industry? Also, have you worked on any AAA games or projects or any major projects? I'm from Mexico. I've been doing this for 15 years now. I started in 2011, so 14 years. 14 years now. I have not worked in AAA games, but I have worked on some like relatively big known IPs, right? So one that I'm very happy or proud of is this commercial that I helped with 2 years ago. This was for Diablo Immortal. So you might remember that game, and I was responsible for a lot of the texturing done for the characters of this trailer. This was fully done in Unreal Engine. That was a very, very fun project to be a part of, and I especially worked on the Barbarian, some of the assets. It's a fun one. You can check it out. I've worked on some big projects here, like nationally. So I've worked on some big industries. There's a very famous park in Mexico. Of course, the museums that I've mentioned before. A couple of games, like indie games that I've done. I'm currently working on a freelance thing for a game. That's a fun one. But yeah, a little bit of everything. I'm a generalist, so I do a lot of different things. 3D printing, stuff like that. Benecamp says, here at the game assembly in Sweden, we usually do 3 pieces for portfolio. How do you usually figure out what to make? Thinking of doing 1 outside environment, 1 indoors, and 1 prop. If you want to be an environment artist, that thing that you're mentioning, that's like great. Yeah, that's what I would do for an environment portfolio. For a character portfolio, I usually do or recommend 4 pieces: a male character, a female character, a monster character, and either a kid or an old guy, so that you can show like the range in different types of like body types, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been modeling for more than a year and really want to get into sculpting, but scared to get into. The closest thing I've sculpted were rocks. Yeah, rocks are fine. Do you think it's better to spend a year improving portfolio or join a studio that's not cutting edge just to get some experience? Join the studio, by far. Like, you're going to get the most experience when you're working. Yeah, like, it's ridiculous how much you learn once you're in an actual project, because you need to solve so many things, and you need to troubleshoot, and you need to figure out techniques, and you need to figure out how to, like, get things done. So definitely, I would recommend to join a studio if you can, even if it's not like the best studio, and it's more valuable as well. Like people who are hiring, they will prefer to see you what's the word, like, if they see that you have experience working in the portfolio, you're more valuable. I know it sounds horrible that I say it like that, but that's the sad reality. Well, not sad reality, that's just the reality. It's, if I see someone that has a kick-ass portfolio but he doesn't have any experience, that can be a little bit concerning. It's like, oh, okay, like, I can see that the portfolio is awesome, but I'm not sure how well he works with others, right? I don't know how well he works with a project where he's not, like, following his own, like, intuition and things like that, like where he needs to follow orders or instructions. That can be, again, a little bit, like, tricky. But if I see that you have a good enough portfolio and that you've worked in the studio, that's a good sign. Right, like, that's a good sign for an artist. Start sort of like blocking in the imps or the ghost head. How did you? No, you don't bind it. You just press W and you go into transform mode or the gizmo mode. Is working in the entertainment corporate experience is equal to working in a studio? It's similar. It's not the same. Like, a big studio has a different hierarchy. It has a different expectation of what you need to do. It has a different organization. Working in a small studio can be different too. This is looking like I don't know, like a fox or something. I don't like this. And working in a small studio, again, there's other types of responsibilities. There's other types of expectations, right? And that's also something that you guys are going to have to decide once you start, like, looking for a job. It's not the same to work in a big studio where the projects are, or where you're not going to have as much, for instance, creative output on the projects, than it is to work on a smaller studio where your decisions matter a little bit more. Some people value that. I personally like that more than to work on big projects where you're just like a cog in the machine. But that's going to be personal preference for everyone. I'm going back to basics, just binding and creating a nice silhouette for this ghost skull. Let's check my original design. Really like that. Cleared out. Go. How much poly should we push for Dynamesh? I tend to push too high poly. You should only increase the poly count when you need it. Very, like, a very common rule of thumb that I give my students is don't increase your Dynamesh resolution or don't increase your poly count unless you need it. Because you can very easily fall into the trap of adding, as you mentioned, too much geometry when you actually don't need it yet. Right? You might need it later when you add details and stuff like that, but for instance, right now with this thing, I'm at 30,000 polygons because I'm just working on primary forms and silhouette right now. Once I go over that or past that, and I start adding secondary forms and things like that, I might increase the poly count. But until I need it, I'm not going to use it. I haven't tried that, Mnoon. I'm not going to try it right now because I don't want the ZBrush to crash. But ZBrush 2026 is a very recent release. Usually, the first early releases of a new version tend to be buggy. So try using the other version, like the previous version. We did this sort of like interesting shape with the horns here. It's important that, again, from a design perspective, things look interesting from every angle, right? So from the side view and from a front view. Oh, I'm really looking forward to those. I really want to see what ZBrush is going to be offering with the retopology tools. They definitely look interesting. I'm definitely going to be checking them out. Probably going to be doing a couple of videos here on the channel to explain how they work. But let's see. Let's see. I mean, they look fine. They look similar to like Topogon, to be honest. Let's see if they can nail it. The UV tools also look interesting. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Haven't released them. I'm pretty sure they're going to release them during the ZBrush Summit, which is usually in November or October. It's relatively soon. I'm quite confident that they're going to be announcing them there. I want to give this horns a little bit more life. So similar to the bones, I'm gonna sort of like push them up. Have them be of a slightly different material or something. And this is a fun thing, since we already have the basic idea, right, of our design. We can just play around with these things and figure something out. I'm gonna split this thing. Select lasso. Let's do a split hidden. Split hidden. That way I can clean this upper jaw. Go. Hey, Capcast, what's up, my friend? Hello, hello. Pretty the original son of mine had a large jaw, but I can't remember. Lol. Don't worry, man. Oh, you had a really nice idea. Again, hopefully you saw the first part of this stream where I explained all the theory. This is more like technical side of things, or the technical practice of the elements. But in the first hour, we went really heavy on explaining the importance of all of the design decisions that we need to make, right? Let's go to this piece right here. Let's play a little bit with the forms. Expect to see the jawline. I'm kind of debating whether or not we want to have the jaw right now. Kind of feels like, or I kind of think that it looks a little bit better without the jaw, to be honest. And maybe just some teeth, right? What do you guys think? So I think the jaw makes the design a little bit too busy. Do you agree? Yeah, no jaw, right? Yeah, I agree. No, broken jaw will make it asymmetrical. I think it will make it a little bit too complicated in design. That way, if we don't have a jaw, We can exaggerate some of these elements a bit more. And push something there. I'm loving this whole stream. I'm taking the only course and I'm relearning basic fundamentals, 2D and 3D, architect by trade. I really learn from the science and technique. Oh, there you go, man. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the Oni course. It's one of my favorite courses, I think. And that's what I always try to do when teaching. You feel like a lot of times, not everyone, not every teacher, but there's a lot of teachers and instructors out there that focus too much on the technical aspect of things, and then they don't explain the foundational stuff as much, meaning that you're left with a lot of like holes in your knowledge because you don't understand why we're doing certain things. I have the teeth right here. That looks like a bat. I'm not sure if I want that. Like the horns and everything, they're giving me this sort of like bat vibe. Very common thing that you can do is just destroy stuff. If you don't like something, just destroy it. See that? That definitely looks like a bat, not like a ghoul. I think it's the horns. The horns are giving this very sort of like bat-like shape. Yeah, I agree. I agree. They might be a little bit too curved. I like the side view though. I don't like the eyes. Yeah, it looks like a cat. Well, I mean, we're thinking about Triponcito, right? Some of you missed that unfortunate sad notice, but one of my parents' cats, a young cat, he unfortunately passed away today. We saw him yesterday. He was doing great, and today he didn't make it, unfortunately. And someone was saying, "Hey, we could do like this could be like a design in his honor, right?" So maybe we'll keep the cat design. I think that could be interesting. What was I gonna do here? Move in depth. There we go. There was one that push the curvature here a little bit more. To really have like an interesting clean curvature here. There we go. That cleans it up a little bit better. Yeah, I like it. I kind of like the idea of the cat, to be honest. Let's append a sphere. Yeah, all of our cats travel. Well, not my cats, but my parents' cats, they do travel outside. They have 4 cats now, so he was one of the newcomers. And he probably picked something up outside, unfortunately. I do think he had all of his shots and everything, but I don't know what it is with cats. They get sick very quickly, I think. Oh. The mirror right there. Yeah, parvovirus or something. Okay. Back to the head. I'm going to increase the resolution a little bit. Now we have the teeth. We could use the teeth to generate a little bit of volume here for the canals or the roots. Right. Yeah, I did, what was it? A cheetah skull, I think, back then. Yeah, skulls are a great way to practice, by the way. If you guys are ever wondering, oh, what should I sculpt or what should I do? Trying to do any animal skull is always a good way to really, like, understand the form and the details and all of these things. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I really like it. It's looking good there. Need to figure out a way to blend it with this thing right here, with the bone. Some like just random organic shapes can definitely work here. Yeah, we did the dragon skull. The dragon skull is on the Oni. I've done like a Mexican candy skull as well for some other tutorials. Yeah, again, skulls are a great way to... What's this? Yeah, I really like Chillhop, which is the music that we're using. But for whatever reason, it just like suddenly stops sometimes, and then it resets, and the volume changes, and they like activate the little sounds again. I don't like that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna merge. What's this? That's the jaw. That one. I'm gonna merge down. So I want to play with a little bit of the position in here. There we go. Rotate this. A little bit sharper there. Yeah, again. Freaking stopped. It's a shame because we were using for a long time the, what was it? We're using the League of Legends musics. But for some reason we started getting some copyright warnings. Internet die? Testing. Oh my god, I think something right here. Testing. We're good. Yeah, I've been saving. That's weird. You can hear me? Okay. Can you see me? Can you see the image? Things around. Thing is, my OBS is not displaying the audio. Desktop. Okay. I mean, we're about to finish anyways. It's a shame. Like it seems like Chillhop died. Chillhop just died. No, it seems to be Chillhop. Try the League of Legends. We're gonna try it. If we get a strike, we'll just cut that part out. There we go. Okay. Be a little bit of background music there. That's the one we used to use. But yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's just finish this, guys, or this part. I mean, of course, this weapon is not it's not finished yet, but we're just gonna finish this part with the. Actually, I'm wondering Should we rotate this thing around? Oh, that kind of looks a little bit more interesting. I think this is going to be a change that we're going to be doing, guys. I think we're going to be doing that change right there. What do you guys think? Was not expecting to see this change, but kind of makes more sense from a design perspective. Right? It also allows me to sort of like blend this thing a little bit more with the hilt. We lose a little bit of the circles though. The circles design. The music's too loud. Let me bring that down. There we go. There we go. That should be better, right? Do we change the horns maybe? We can grab the horns. That's not a bad idea. Bring the horns in a slightly different position. We could try rotating the horns out. No, that looks weird. Way too weird. Maybe make them a little bit smaller. Was it? The cat should look at the face of the enemy when you hit them. Yeah, right? Like that. This looks a little bit more in line with that. Horns are fine. Rib texture. I do think they're a little bit big though. Well, I'm not sure. Like big, especially for stylized stuff, big tends to be a good effect. Someone's mentioning like a ribbed effect. Yeah, that can work. I think that can work. We'll keep exploring. This is not the final decision. Let's move this thing a little bit there. But I like this change. I feel like feels more like forward facing in general. Scale the whole, make it a little bit smaller maybe. Yeah, it could work. It's the balance. Because I do feel like the skull has to be here to flow properly with the rest of the elements. The horns that I'm not convinced about. Maybe that. Feels a little bit more interesting, I think. Again, this sort of like S curve with the skull as well. That could work. Bring this up. I want to see the bone here. We had it in the opposite view. We had it in the opposite view, and let me try something here. Let's rotate the whole thing. It's facing forward. So this is the direction. So I would expect the character to be holding the weapon. This part right here. The handle would be like right around there. Or should we flip that thing around as well? Let's try flipping the handle. No, that feels like a weird thing. Make a hole in his forehead for the blade to pass through. Yeah, no, we're definitely gonna be like adding some sort of like destruction here, right? If the skull was literally... This was one of the first design options that we had with the weapon. Yeah, I do feel like the blade has to be in that direction. Nose pointed to the point of the dagger. No, I like that. I think that feels better. Maybe a little bit bigger? Daggers tend to be quite big in World of Warcraft, so... Let's add the final what's the word? Let's add the final details, which is the bands or the this thing, the handles, and we'll check. So for that one, I'm just gonna mask this whole thing. Like that. I'm gonna say geometry. Sorry, subtool, extract, fill thickness, extract, accept. There we go. Then I'm gonna go with my slice curve. Slice there, there. 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 And there. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna remove some of them. That one, that one. That one, that one. Yeah, probably like that. And I'm gonna say delete hidden. And then we're gonna do geometry. Edge loop, panel loops. Probably a little bit thicker. There we go. Do other groups and Dynamesh with a high resolution. There we go. And now with move, of course. Move topological. And start generating a little bit of an overlap. Some of them are going to be on top of the other ones. So this is just a way to sort of like fake this effect, right? This like strap effect. And make it seem like it's way more complex than it actually is. It's a very efficient way, to be honest, to get this. And it adds a lot of personality to the whole weapon, right? And this like layering effect sells the fact that, like, even though they're not connected, right? It's not a single like thing or strap that's connected to everything. It sells the fact that it's way more complex than it actually is. So that's it, guys. That is it. Go here to the weapon. So for those of you that are just joining, today's stream was about design principles. How we can take something, an idea, and really think about what that idea means to get it into a more interesting position. So this was inspired, of course, by our good friend Collins, who did this weapon right here, this red weapon. This was his original design, right? Oh, come on, Photoshop, don't fail me now. This was his original design, as you can see right there, and we went through the whole process of sort of like breaking it down, understanding a little bit of the story and what was behind it. We did some options and some like design elements. You guys helped me pick out the best options, and there we go. So now we have this like really interesting weapon. Is it finished? No, it's not finished. I would say we're at roughly 30% of the whole process for a game asset, right? And the next steps would be, of course, to finish the high poly, do the low poly, hand painted process if we want to do hand painted, or PBR if we want to do PBR. This one is like very hand painted. It has a very hand painted sort of like approach to it, I think. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Let me know in the chat and in Discord if you want me to continue with this project. We have a lot of pending projects. We have the female Thor that we were doing, the frog that we were doing, this one. I hope I have, or I wish I had more time to be able to finish all of them. But maybe we'll finish the high poly and the retopo for this one on some of the next videos, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it, my friends. Thank you very much. If you want to support the channel, of course, you know, you can check out our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe. It really helps us. If you want to see more of this, we actually have a course, by the way. So I know some of you guys are going to ask about like the full process for a weapon. And the first course we ever did, it's this one right here. It's with Blender. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about the whole process, you know, modeling, sculpting, texturing, all that kind of stuff, well, there it is. You can check that one out on our website. And there's some free lessons as well. And yeah, make sure to join our Discord channel. Thank you, David. Thank you, Alan. Great stream, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for being part of this. Everyone, for your support. And don't forget, always learning, always improving. I'll see you back next week, my friends. Bye-bye.